Welcome to Buzzed and Baffled, the podcast where the wine is flowing and the stories are strange.
Each week, we uncork a bottle, take a sip, and dive into some of the most jaw-dropping, unbelievable true tales you've never heard before.
From historical mysteries to bizarre real-life events, we'll have you wondering, is this for real?
So, grab your glass, sit back, and join us as we get buzzed and you get baffled.
Hey listeners, just a quick note before we dive in. Buzzed and Baffled is a podcast where we enjoy a glass of wine, share wild stories, and sometimes get a little, well, buzzed.
While we strive to share true and accurate tales, we're here for the entertainment as much as the facts. So take everything we say with a grain of salt and a splash of wine. Any opinions shared here are our own and do not reflect those of any other party.
Always drink responsibly and remember, the truth can be stranger than fiction.
Welcome to episode 9 of Buzzed and Baffled.
Episode 9 already. I can't believe we hung on this long. Although, fortunately, our success, I should use success in air quotes. Our existence would be a better term, does not rely on listeners. So we'd be at episode 9 if we had no
solid listeners every episode.
All right.
And on social media, we're gaining followers every week. Yeah. Thanks to my rampant social media
against my will. I do want to give just like a random shout out to Sarah, my bariatric PA, if she happens to listen. She asked me what the pod was named. I told her. I said it's adult content. She's like, well, maybe you're a listener. So, Sarah, if you're listening,
I have the same doctor, and she had mentioned to me that other people had told her they were listening to this podcast, and this was unrequested information. So I do believe we're slowly infiltrating society.
Yeah, so Sarah, if you're listening, thank you, first of all, for being a listener. We would totally understand if you did not continue to listen.
Thank you for doing the hard work with us.
Also, you're literally the best. So. Okay. All right, so here we are, episode 9.
Episode 9.
What do we got for wine tonight?
So, tonight, we are doing something a little bit weird. I stole this from my mother, Lisa. So, shout out to Lisa.
Who doesn't listen? Lisa, not a listener.
We're also trying to get her on the pod, and she's, like, nervous about it. But I'm like, girl, you're just day drinking with us.
You just, like, sit here and you drink a little peanut butter whiskey, and you can just, like, laugh when we say something dumb.
Yeah. So tonight is something you don't hear of a lot, which is a white Malbec.
Yeah.
Because, like, Malbec's traditionally red wines.
Yeah, and those are usually, like, South America, Africa. Yeah, so those aren't really, like, your French.
So this is actually, the bottle says, the first white Malbec. It's a Triventino Argentinian wine.
Okay.
There's a code where we can scan to discover, but we're on a pod, so we're not going to do that.
Yeah, we do have video capability. I've just vetoed it thus far.
But I'm going to put the bottle on the website, so if you're interested to see what a white Malbec is, and, like, you can go there and look. It's going to be under the Buzzed section of the Buzzed and Baffled.net website. So it says that 3 winds created the ideal land for growing wine and revealed the symbol that has guided us to this day. Discover an epic origin, discover Triventino, well-known Malbec, newly styled with aromas of cherry, raspberry, and notes of green apple with fresh acidity. So the description doesn't tell me a lot about what I'm expecting.
So it sounds weird. Like cherry, raspberry, those are things you expect in a red.
Yeah, so like cherry, like what's
excited to drink this in
like
white.
With fresh acidity, to me that means...
I'm kind of... Did you ever have the mystery flavor Airheads?
I mean, I've had mystery shots.
Well, that's not another... So, Airheads, the weird taffy-ish, taffy-adjacent.
I mean, I remember them, but I was never dumb enough to buy them.
So there was always, like, a mystery flavor, and I think it was literally, like...
all the other flavors.
The production run, between the end of one flavor and the start of another.
Yes.
But I'm imagining in my head that this is going to taste like mystery flavor Airheads because it's white but tastes like fruit. And I hope I'm not disappointed.
So let's find out.
So let's do this.
I mean, I know your nose isn't great.
No, we'll get her. can't smell anything, so let's not go.
So it's not minerally. So like it's not sharp like a mineral would be.
No, I don't like. This smells like nothing to me.
It smells almost like how a peach would smell if you were to sniff it, but it's very ripe. Okay,
this smells like water, so also sorry to our listeners who could hear me literally inhaling through my nose.
She's trying so hard with her broken nose.
Okay. Sour, but not in a bad way.
It is a little sour. It has the juicy forward of a red wine, because it's a little salivaty in the front.
This is blowing my mind because...
But it's not minerally like I typically go for. So it's not like a Sauvignon Blanc.
This is not from like mineral-rich water. This is not like a limestone water source.
As we've learned from the terrier, it's not limestone-rich.
I'm having some cognitive dissonance with this because the wine is white and clear, and to me doesn't smell like anything. But there's a lot of taste. It's sour cherry to me.
It's tangy.
Like I don't hate it at all.
I don't know what I would pair it with. I would pair it with like a red meat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
or a pasta. Like a red pasta.
And typically you would do it like a bold red with something
like a bolognese. This would go great with a bolognese.
Well, shout out again to Lisa for the rare pull on the white malt.
Yeah, no, like she had a whole bunch of these in her wine rack, and when I was there, I just took one, and she was like, but she didn't stop me.
Weird. This is not like any white wine I've ever tasted.
That's why it's also the first white. But also, like, does it come from a... We have to look into this. Because does it come from a red grape? And because the red comes from...
So is this a red grape that they de-skin?
And then
press?
Because the red color comes from the skin of the wines.
It's refreshing. It's kind of like...
It's not a day-to-day drinker, though.
No.
Like, you get this to go with something in particular.
Yeah, so you're either doing, like, with a heavy steak or you're drinking this to offset sweetness of a cheesecake dessert.
I don't think I could do that.
Well, you can't eat cheesecake.
That is also true.
Unless you have your special medicine.
My special milk tabs.
Wow, this kind of reminds me of drinking, like, white Gatorade.
Yes.
Yeah, where it's
an undescribed...
The color does not match the flavor.
Or any kind of... What are the drinks the nurses drink? And they're terrible, but they drink like 12 of them a day. Monsters.
Oh, I'm not a nurse, so I don't know.
No, so when I worked in medical social work, the nurses would drink these all the time, and the CNAs too. And like the color came out, and they'd give me a taste of it, and the color wasn't of nature, and the taste wasn't of nature.
This is okay. I know we don't usually spend this much time on the wine,
but it's very interesting.
But this is just like fascinating to my brain.
Maybe they need to sponsor us too, just like Botobox, who is ignoring all of our outreaches on social media. But this is like
my mind is blown at this. Because I actually really like it because I like sour things, like sour beer. Oh yeah.
Is that why you like me so much?
Yeah. I mean, I don't really like you that much. Don't take that seriously. That's just a joke.
No,
but let's get into the pod.
So things that are a little bit sour and you don't know how to deal with things comes with my story.
Yeah. Apropos.
I have entitled it, Come for the Faith, Stay with the Brainwashing.
Okay, so we're in like a little bit culty.
Yeah, we're going into a cult zone.
You know, I love a good cult. And if you look behind you, somewhere back there, I have a book that's called like Secret Societies and Cults of the World or something.
And so, do you remember when you were a child and you would go to summer camp?
Well, so I remember the idea of summer camp.
Like, I never went to summer camp.
I also never went to summer camp. But I remember, like, the movie-sized movie ideal of or TV shows that we watched of summer camp.
So, like, you would go, you would spend time in nature, you'd make new friends, you'd learn skills.
Yeah, so, like, I get it because of, like, movies of, like, you know, when I was 12, I would watch, like, movies with other 12-year-olds. When we were in 6th grade, we went to Camp Nesbitt, but that was, like, for 4 days.
I did! I went to Camp Nesbitt.
Oh, my God, I hope you weren't my counselor.
Oh, God, I was never a camp counselor.
Okay. I think you would have actually... I'm not saying this to be mean.
I would have drowned the kids.
No. I think you would have been 1 year too old to be my camp counselor.
God damn it!
Because it was juniors and seniors who did it, and when I was in 6th grade...
Well, Kyle, so just everyone knows, Kyle is a fetus.
No, I take that back. When I was in 6th grade, would have been 1998, so you would have been a senior.
I was at 98 when I graduated.
Also, we have a large age gap, which only rears its ugly head sometimes.
Yeah.
But when it does, it's hilarious.
When I ask her if she remembers something, she has no idea what I'm talking about.
We're going to see Alanis Morissette in Las Vegas in October, and we're going to have very different experiences.
Because Alanis Morissette is my 16-year-old self. Her album was my anthem. And I've also gone to see her concert twice. Her new concert. I saw it with Garbage. Twice.
Oh yeah, that was like I was rocking 7th grade when
I was getting ready to graduate, and me and Leah, hashtag shout out to Leah because she helped correct our friend.
Well, she did more than correct our friend.
She just shamed our friend.
We thought we were so close on some of those things.
But Leah and I have gone twice with her husband Ben, who they're one of my best friends, to see Alanis Morissette and Garbage. And I don't think Garbage is here in Vegas.
No, it's just Alanis. So Alanis is having a residency, so it's just her.
Okay.
Like when we went to see Adele, it was just Adele. Yeah. There was no opener, nothing. So
one of the first things Kyle and I did was, after I tricked her into being my friend, she invited me to go to Adele.
Yeah, I ended up... I waited in line on Ticketmaster for Adele. We're kind of rambling, so I hope you don't have a super long story where we go over an hour.
It's not super long. We can do this.
And, I was looking for 4 tickets because that's what you get when you're in one of those queues for hours. And, let's be real, I did it when I was at work. And I ended up with 3 tickets because I'm like, well, I don't know if I was the last person to get tickets. But 3 is a weird number to get, so I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to take my husband, I guess.
But also, now I have my friend Nicole, who's eternally alone, so I'm going to bring her too.
We're sitting at Gino's, and I'm like, yeah, because I offered to, I tried to sell the 3rd ticket, to my family. I didn't put it on Facebook. It was more like, hey, if anyone wants to go, we can meet you there, and I'll, sell you this ticket or give you this ticket. It was no big deal. I just didn't want, some weird rando. And, that's really what I ended up with some weird randos.
But also, I want everyone to know, this is really how Kyla sealed her own fate. So you did this to yourself.
I know. So,
that's why we're sitting here right now.
Yep. And there was a time where Adele was shooting, cannons into the crowd and drawing, seat numbers because she would leave 2 seats down in the front row.
And it was very close. It almost hit us.
Yes, for people who were up in Caesar's Palace. There's really not a bad seat in the house. Compared to other stadiums, you're actually quite close to the stage, even if you're in the highest back.
No, it was one of the best shows I've ever been to.
But what Adele would do is
she'd shoot a cannon.
Leave 2 seats open in the front row, and she would draw a seat, like a raffle, basically, for people sitting in the... Not so much nosebleed, but the higher sections.
It was the nosebleeds, guys.
And she started, she's like, okay, so randomly during this take, like a raffle, like a meat raffle at some bar or something, some ridiculous thing. And I'm having deja vu.
It was right behind us.
I'm having deja vu right now, and that's really weird.
It was right behind us, and I was wondering, who's Kyla gonna choose?
Yeah.
If she gets one of those things?
Yeah.
So obviously if I won, forget David. I'm not taking
and she's like, Section E, and I'm like, woohoo, we're in Section E. And she's like, row 405 or whatever the hell road in, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh,
You just realized,
wait, there's three of us.
like, I go into this.
Do I take my husband down, because there's only 2 seats, but then I'm like, who, because obviously I'm going.
Well, yeah, I would like you to know, I would be so mad if you left me up there and you chose the love of your life. I mean, I'd be like, what the hell?
Only my Sophie's choice might have just been like, you two go, and I'll just sit back here.
David is going to be down there looking at his phone, playing his game.
And I'm just like back up in row 405, just being like, honestly, this is the best for us.
Like, I avoided the fight altogether.
But,
Because if you had chosen him and not me, you would never hear the end of
I
it.
know, but also we weren't like super new friends. But it was like newish. Where, I mean, I know you probably wouldn't have had an idea where you're like, I'm inserting myself in here. But I feel like you might have just been like, I'm gonna make her decide.
Well, I mean, I think you know who I am now. Oh, so you know exactly that's what it
If
was.
I went back in time 3.5 years and I won that ticket, I would whisper into my own ear, just let the two of them go. It was real Sophie's choice. There was no winning. But now that we've gone off on a super long tangent.
So, summer camp.
Yes.
Well, this is what happened to the children in my story. They were not having nature, new friends, and learning skills. I am talking about the kids of the Fire School of Ministry. And I kid you not, this happened in Devil's Lake, North Dakota. They have since changed their name to Kids of Ministry International. I had to track them down online, and they're still just as crazy.
Did you ask me if I knew about this?
I did.
Okay, but I must have been a little bit...
There's a documentary.
Because what we do on this podcast, for our new and voluminous number of listeners, is I'll think of something and I'll text Nicole and be like, do you know about such and such?
I
And she'll
texted
say
you and
yes.
asked you, hey, do you know
I mean, obviously I said no, but I do not remember you texting me about this.
So do you know about it?
I don't think so.
Okay, so we're still in the same place. So Kids on Fire was founded in 2001 by a woman named Becky Fisher. You really have to go onto the website into episode 9 and look at a picture of her to get a full visual of what I'm
And you don't even have a picture for a board. Shame,
I
shame,
don't.
shame.
Like, I had a busy day this week on Friday, and I don't.
After I spent all that time mounting the board, hanging the mats.
But,
Okay, well, that's alright.
so, but Becky Fisher from Occult Camp looks exactly how you think she would.
Yeah, I have an image in my head, and I'm really eager to compare and contrast after this.
So, Becky Fisher is a self-proclaimed minister, author, public speaker, graphic artist, entrepreneur, and more.
Ooh.
The website states that Kids on Fire, now Kids Ministry, trains children, teens, and kids ministry leaders to walk in the supernatural power of God.
Oh. Okay.
So this is like take a deep breath and think about that.
Yeah, so I know about, like, youth groups and, like, youth camps where, you know,
It's the
I didn't attend these and I didn't attend
It's the supernatural power of God.
But when he said supernatural, that was like, bing, 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 red flag in my head.
So, the camp was run by Becky Fisher and a preacher, Reverend Ted Haggard. Does that ring any bells?
Haggard. Not yet, but we'll get there.
Oh, we're gonna get there. They worked with the purpose of teaching children to steel themselves for spiritual and political warfare. By teaching children to pray in tongues to God, and abortion, and bless President Bush.
Okay.
Because we're in the 90s at this point.
Okay, I see where this is.
1990s,
Yeah.
for all you youngins.
I see where this is going. Okay.
So we're going to start with the key players.
Okay.
Because we have to get a base. So Becky Fisher, who was 55 at the time, lived in Bismarck, North Dakota, and was the chief pastor at the Fire Center, which focused on children's ministry. Between 2002 and 2006, she would run week-long camps for children in Devil's Lake, with about 100 children attending each year. So we're talking about a year, though, so each weekend, so like...
Okay, so if you figure summer's like 10, 12 weeks, you're looking at like...
But you get the fanaticals. You get the fanaticals.
Yeah, so I mean, these are really small groups, actually.
So Becky once stated that she focused her ministry on children. She verbalized a belief that children need to be indoctrinated early, and that children are not able to choose their own belief system past childhood.
Okay.
Which is not true when we look at like human development.
I'm just gonna do a little sidebar here, and I know we spent a lot of time talking about Adele and Alanis Morissette at the top of the show, so I'm gonna keep this brief. Aren't people of the religious right variety accusing literally every institution of indoctrinating their children?
Yes.
But here we have someone who's literally admitting that they need to be indoctrinated because they can't make up their own minds.
No, but she's stating that children can't make up their own minds past childhood. Well, no. If you look at human development, and I say this as a therapist, people in their early teens to late 20s, that's when you start to separate from your family and develop your own beliefs based on new information.
Yeah. You leave the house, whether it's to college or the military, to the workforce, whatever it might be, but you're not 168 hours a week at home with your parents. And you meet new people. You meet new people, which is the thing.
Well, so, bear with me, because good old Becky was quoted as stating that democracy is flawed because we have to give everyone equal freedom.
I know our listeners can't see me right now.
I mean, someday we're going to get a camera in here, but...
I'm just like 1,000 yards staring out into space by the contradiction of that sentence.
Yes. So, in 2016, when speaking of her experience after the release of the documentary Jesus Camp...
I watched that.
I asked you if you watched this, and you told me no.
I did not. I will check my text. No, you did not.
Fisher says she often feared for her safety when people would recognize her in public. Following the film's explosive popularity and the Academy Award nomination, the camp was vandalized and Fisher was not allowed to rent it for her ministry again. She stated, "For the first time in my life, I could truly relate to the Jewish people, seeing how a Holocaust could have its embryonic beginnings." So that's the kind of person we're talking about.
Yeah, I'm like squeezing my eyeballs right now with the irony and absolute ridiculousness of the situation.
So, power users.
Okay.
Fisher founded and created a curriculum for Kids on Fire, and currently, like right now, I found like 2 weeks ago.
She is like an active summer camp.
She doesn't have a summer camp, but she still does public speaking under a rebrand called Kids in Ministry International. The website currently boasts her starting role in the Oscar-nominated documentary film Jesus Camp. So she's using this to try to get people to...
So she's a hypocrite, because she's like, we got so much bad press about this, but also...
But I'm going to use this to, like...
But also, hey, did you see this Oscar-nominated documentary?
Pay me money to, like, work with your kids. She has a strong social media presence on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. If everyone's interested in looking her up, she's there.
I'm not.
Her current KIMI website has several quotes with people boasting her behind-the-scenes work.
I bet it's awesome.
Part of her behind-the-scenes work was to bring Reverend Ted Haggard to the Kids on Fire camp. Do you know anything about Reverend Tim Haggard?
You know, I've read or I've watched a lot of documentaries, like probably too many, where the name Haggard rings a bell, but I don't know if that was just me describing myself on a Saturday morning, or if it was actually, so let's talk about this.
And I will say, you all have to go to buzzedandbaffled.net, and you have to look at episode 9, because you have to look at the picture. You've got to see the dead eyes.
It's always dead eyes. Dead shark eyes.
It's the dead shark eyes.
It's the same thing as Zuckerberg has.
Yep. So Reverend Ted Haggard is a Methodist preacher who worked at this camp. He began to believe in spiritual warfare in 1993 when he met C. Peter Wagner. He believed in, hold on, let me turn the page, in spiritual mapping, which is a belief among some Christians that demons are associated with specific geographic locations and use prayer to be able to create large-scale change in stopping the demonic influence. Sorry, I'm hiccuping, guys.
Yep, we're going to take a 5-minute break. You don't know it, but we will, and Nicole's going to eat some peanut butter.
P.C. Wagner believed in spiritual mapping, which was a belief among some Christians that demons are associated with specific geographic locations, and the use of prayer can be used to create large-scale change. I
mean, I knew what you meant when you said scale. Yeah, let's clarify scale for our devoted listeners.
At least I caught this one.
You did, yeah.
Correct. Because they're looking to stop demonic influence.
Okay, and it's a good thing we have maps now, so we can, have an accurate geographical reference about
we need to know where these demons are. Mm-hmm. So, this whole thing had a strong influence on the members of Kids at Fire Camp. The thing about old Tim Haggard. In 2005, Tim Haggard was listed by Tom. Is it Tom or is it Tim?
No, I was... You said 2005.
She's laughing at me, so now I question myself.
I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you. They really tried to hold, but instead of saying 2005, you said 2005, which is this an insane crossover. Okay,
so it's 2005. It's Tom. Now I gotta look back.
I think it's Tim.
It's Ted.
Ted, okay, we'll go for it. Teddy Bear.
Ted was listed by Time Magazine as one of the 25 most influential evangelicals in America. And he was a firm supporter of Judge George W. Bush. He would often attempt to rally evangelical support for Bush during his 2004 election. It was reported in 2005 that Ted talks to Bush or his advisors every Monday, and stated at the time that no pastor in America holds more sway over the political direction of evangelical.
Okay.
Does this sound familiar to anything?
Yeah, that's where I remember. So, because this was W, right? This was W.
This is the old, this is the father.
Oh, that's HW. W is the son, elected in 2000.
I guess I don't know.
Okay, well, regardless.
They're both terrible.
Now I remember him, and I'm thinking that at some point he becomes some type of advisor, because I know his name from somewhere.
So, how do you think Ted Haggard's career progressed?
Oh, well, George W. Bush gets elected via Supreme Court vote because hanging chads in Florida, etc. Also, by the way, just to put some context to this, I was in freshman history when this was happening in the year 2000, 2001.
In 2005, I had graduated from college and was already embarking on my career.
This is 2001, so we're 4 years earlier than that. So you're 19. ish. But no, I remember
2005.
this is 2001.
Okay. 2005 was not it.
Look at your paper. Yeah, that's where I recognize his name is, like, I'm thinking like National Prayer Breakfast.
Overall, how do you think Ted fared?
Oh, awesome. He's like doing like some book shit. Is this wrong?
He was fired from the New Life Church in Colorado amid allegations of gay sex and drug use.
Oh.
In 2006, a male prostitute named Mike Jones made allegations that Haggard had been paying him for sex for 3 years, and he had used methamphetamine with him after Haggard spoke out publicly and politically against same-sex marriage.
I mean, literally none of that is surprising. Is this the guy, or that actually might have been an elected official who was doing like the tappy taps in the Minneapolis airport?
I don't know. That didn't come.
That might have been like a senator or a house rep. Okay.
So Mike Jones was quoted as saying, "It made me angry that there's someone preaching against gay marriage and going behind the scenes having gay sex.
Oh.
I had to expose the hypocrisy. He's in a position of influence to millions of followers, and he's preaching against gay marriage. Behind everybody's back, he's doing what he preached against."
Oh, yes. We love an expose. We love...
In 2006, Haggard openly supported a Colorado Amendment 43, which attempted to make the statement, "Only a union of one man and one woman should be valid or recognized as a marriage in the state," into law, making LGBTQ marriage illegal.
Yeah, and we could do an entire episode about this, so I'm just going to keep this a very brief interjection. First of all, it's June. Happy Pride. I meant to say that at the end of my last episode, and
I did not plan this story to be during this time.
my last episode about the public universal friend who was the first non-binary woman person who kind of notified the U.S., known in the U.S. But yeah, Happy Pride. We're allies. We support you. We see you.
We see you.
You matter.
We'll protect you.
Yep.
So, what it comes down to is, like, these are allegations he later admitted to. In 2009, it became known that in 2006, a young member of the New Life Church came forward notifying church officials that Haggard had inappropriate sexual contact with him over a long period of time.
Shocker.
The New Life Church reached a $179,000 settlement with the young man, who was 20 in 2006, but he was not 20 when these things happened. So, but the thing is, Haggard didn't just, like, close up shop.
No, of course not.
He moved and founded a James in St. James Church in Colorado Springs, where he started public prayer meetings in a barn, and it grew into a brick-and-mortar congregation.
Okay. Also, those of you who can hear Teddy, my dog, barking, not Ted Haggard, I apologize. He is a sassy boy, but he's very good, so just ignore it.
He just wants his own tail.
He has one brain cell. It bounces back and forth within his skull. Sometimes it hits just right and he stops barking.
It never actually hits the skull.
No, it's like when you're watching the DVD screensaver on your TV and you wait for it to hit the core. That's what it's like waiting for Ted to realize what's going on.
So in 2009, HBO made a documentary about Haggard called The Trials of Ted Haggard. Who do you think directed this?
2009. Okay, is this a positive director? Someone who's on his side, or
It is someone who is definitely not on his side. It is definitely a Democratic leaning person. And it's related, like, obviously it's not someone who's in politics, but it's someone, she's closing the window, you can't see what's happening. But it's direct politics related.
what's the initials of this director?
AP.
You know, in a different generation, I'd probably be able to guess this, but
The mother is MP?
I can't really put it together in enough time to keep this podcast on track.
The mom is Nancy Pelosi, the daughter is Alexandria Pelosi.
Oh, I did not know that.
I did not know this either. So in the documentary, he claims that part of the reason that the sexual misconduct and abuse occurred is because he was molested by his father at 7 years old.
Okay, and we've talked about this many times over our vast library of episodes about cycle abuse, and I know that's a thing.
But it's not uncommon that the abused becomes the abuser when it comes to childhood sexual abuse.
So we know that is a thing.
But the problem is that once you become the abuser, the rules change.
Yeah, and I don't want get canceled for this, like, from our 9 followers, but it's like, and I'm just gonna not say anything, because this is gonna be taken wrong, no matter how I say it.
Tell me off camera.
I will. Like, the thought process that I have, and this is not excusing anything, it's just, it's comparing this first incident to ongoing incidents.
Also, he abused children in his congregation, and then he was anti-LGBTQ while being a member of the community.
And I guess my point is, at some point, you stop exit yourself from the cycle of abuse, and you just become a straight-up abuser.
Well, there's a point to which you stop being the victim and you start being
Yes, that's exactly my point. Like, you're in this cycle of abuse, but at some point, you stop, you take the off-ramp from your cycle of abuse, and you go on your own journey of being an abuser.
Well, and like, as a therapist, like, I can see, because, like, based on generational things, no one in his generation was like, hey, someone's perpetrating on you, you need help. But at the same point, he's perpetrating on others. So there's not a good answer for this. Like, everybody's wrong, everything sucks.
And let me be clear, like, this is wrong all around. And I don't even want to say we give grace, because we do not.
No.
We look at mitigating circumstances, is what we do. And we form our opinions from that.
But so, like, so if you want to watch it, like, this documentary is on HBO Max right now, so you can watch it. But, in 2020, more allegations were made by a minister at St. James Church that he had recorded confessions of 2 young men, one of whom was a minor at the time, of the congregation, alleging that Hager had been touching them inappropriately in 2019. So, like, he's perpetrating, allegedly.
Allegedly. You can't sue us if we say allegedly.
But, in 2022, Hager founded another church in his home, focusing on home-based micro-churches.
Okay. So what I'm envisioning is, like, it's a church. Yeah, and home-based micro-churches to me means every dad has his own church of his family, and he is the king of the castle.
It's a cult.
Yeah.
He has also publicly changed his stance on gay marriage, though, stating while he still believes it's forbidden under biblical law, he feels we need to be careful not to... Oh, we can't say that word.
I'll read it for you. We need to be careful not to...
Okay, yeah, see?
Okay, so my best guess is inculcate.
Okay.
And that's not a word I've ever seen, but that's inculcate. I-N-C-U-L-C-A-T-E.
So that's some part of biblical law into civil law.
what an about face. That feels like a half about face where it's, I'm saying I don't agree with this, so the people who pay me keep paying me, but also I'm forgiven from
Well, he's also
fails I've been.
he's willy-nilly in his stances, because in the 2011 issue of GQ,
Oh,
yeah, he stated, I think the probability, if I were 21 in this society, I would identify myself as bisexual. Adding that just like you're a heterosexual, but you don't have sex with every woman that you're attracted to, so I can be who I am exclusively and have sex with my wife and be perfectly satisfied. But what this tells me is I've been taught to hate who I am as a person.
yeah, so we have opinions about this.
Yes.
Of course, we know, and when I say we, it's the royalty, isn't all of us as human beings. And if you don't know this, well, then I'm sorry, but this is the way it is. So
It's also our pod.
yeah, also this is our pod, we can do whatever we want. We as a, and I'm going to say educated society, knowing that not everyone is educated, we know that sexuality is fluid.
It's a spectrum.
And it's a spectrum.
Well,
It's not binary. It's not yes, no.
but everything in life is a spectrum.
Yeah. And, some days I really want to Diet Coke. And some days I just don't.
Yeah, some days I want a McDonald's Diet Coke.
And, don't read too much into that. People are literally talking about Diet Coke. But, it's how your mindset changes based on all these extrinsic factors, and it's the same thing with sexuality. So,
But this guy grew up in an environment where he kind of thought this, but he wasn't allowed to be.
and as much as I don't like him for all the BS he did,
He's a prodigy.
I kind of applaud him for being like, hey guys, maybe,
Well, don't applaud him.
maybe I'll golf clap.
So, these are the two main players.
Okay.
Now we're getting to Jesus Camp.
Oh yeah, I suppose I shouldn't applaud him yet since we haven't even gotten to the main story. But I do, click, click, click my fingers together for him saying that we don't know everything about acting.
So, look him up online. Don't clap him.
Acting high class.
There's only so much time in this podcast. You have to look it up for yourself. So we're at Jesus Camp.
Okay.
So Kids on Fire, which is featured in a 2006 documentary called Jesus Camp, which you can watch in its entirety if you go to our website, buzzedandbaffled.net. I have a link to it.
I think, what year did that come out?
2006.
2006, okay. So, okay.
I was 6. Well, I was 26 in 2006.
Yeah, well, you're older. So I remember when Netflix came out and it was DVD only like this.
Yeah.
And I was in orphan school and I was like, oh, I had a little, I got like $12 a month to do this. And in Minneapolis, of course, I could get turnover every other day.
Yeah.
And I think Jesus Camp was the first documentary I ever really watched.
Well, I was asking you if you'd watched this.
Yeah, I did. I'm gonna look back at my text history and somebody asked me that.
She's like, guys,
Report.
So the thing is, it's a Pentecostal-based camp that focused on New Apostolic Reformation, which is part of the Neo-Charismatic movement.
So,
I looked this up. I know more of this.
yeah, and I stay pretty hip on shit. I look at news every day.
No, this is
Well, something I don't follow.
no, but it's the church that talks in tongues and does that. That's what this is.
Yeah, I'll have a little story about that if we have time.
So the movie, okay, we have nothing but time here.
I mean, we are limited to an hour based on our contractual agreement with Spotify or whoever.
So, but the movie itself focuses 3 campers, Levi, Rachel, and Victoria, who goes by Tori. Levi is a preacher's son from Missouri and is described as a homeschooled kid who learns from books that attempted to reconcile youth earth creationism and scientific principles. If anyone has questions on this, go to buzzandbaffled.net and watch the John Oliver episode on where he talks about homeschooling. Yeah. Because that's what this is about.
Yep.
Agreed. Yeah. And preached at his father's church. Rachel was a member of Levi's congregation, and she describes non-charismatic churches as dead churches.
And we're getting into like micro minutia of like neighboring churches who are literally next door from each other, and one's like,
but you're also
this, and the other one's like, no, like extremely something different.
But you're also talking about children who are only living in a small environment with their parents.
Yeah, and that just adds, that compounds to their beliefs.
And so Tori, the third child, she loves to dance for a children's praise dance team, but has to check herself to ensure that her dancing is for God and not for the flesh.
I'm a really bad dancer. I don't dance. I don't enjoy dancing.
You dance like a white person?
Well, I don't dance, first of all, because I don't enjoy it unless I've had several intoxicating beverages.
See, now none of you know this, but I have a new goal of getting us to dance.
I mean, if there's enough good music and I've had, 6...
Well, like, we're gonna be in Vegas, and there's gonna be a video clip of us at some kind of club.
Still not happening in Vegas. Not a chance.
Okay, hold on, we gotta get on point here. So looking at Jesus Camp, the focus of the week-long camp is to ensure that children purify themselves in order to be a part of God's army. Fisher held a firm belief that Christians need to train their children for war because the enemy, who she at that time as a Bush was radical Islam, is training their children. So like children against children is kind of the idea here.
And that's incredibly sad.
Fisher held the belief that she was training children to fight spiritual warfare with the Middle East. She would often put out cutouts of George Bush in front of the children so that she could pray over him.
I think I remember that from the documentary.
So, for the listeners that perhaps we have who are not alive at the time, go to the website. I have a picture of George Bush with his victory sign where he said he claimed the victory of this. It wasn't a victory.
Strategery.
It was awful. So during the camp, the children were also shown life-size models of developing fetuses with the word life painted on them, and children were directed to pray to end abortion. A focus of prayer was also to pray that Bush would appoint judges to overturn Roe versus Wade. And so
he was elected,
but now we know that Roe versus Wade was overturned.
It was.
But
not till many, it was like 20 years later.
But these are the people who reported pretty much 2025. Like these evangelicals, for whatever reason, have this belief. So the movie Jesus Camp does not show what happened to Levi, Rachel, and Tori after. But you can watch the video. I haven't watched it because I don't like to be mad for no reason.
Yeah.
I'm mad enough as it is. In 2016, though, The Guardian did a follow-up article entitled The Kids of Jesus Camp. So 10 years later, it was entitled, Was It Child Abuse? Yes and No. In this article, we see Levi, who is strongly featured in the film. He describes himself now as a well-balanced, healthy individual. Now it's not now, this is 2016, so this is like 10 years ago. He was engaged to a fiancée and has a bachelor's degree in word Revival School of Ministry.
Okay, so
But it's also not like a really,
I'm guessing it's not an accredited degree.
no, it's not really.
And that's not me saying that as like high and mighty. That's just like literally a fact.
So he's still in this world because he continues to be part of the evangelical churches.
I'm seriously guessing question the accreditation of that, and a lot of our listeners. I'm guessing we hit like the bachelor's plus degree of people in our listeners.
Well, I'm also guessing, like, we're in the liberal section.
Yeah, and we all know about accreditation, and like we all know there's universities who just give you a degree. Now, whether that degree means something in the rest of the world is a different story.
And as someone who, I teach an online undergraduates, if you ain't doing the work, you fail in my class.
Yeah, like,
And if the university doesn't like it, you can choose not to contract me again.
yeah, and full disclosure, I went to Northern Michigan University. You can laugh aloud for that, but
It's accredited. For my undergraduate, I went to Central. Like, it's not like an Ivy League school.
but like it is accredited. Like there's certain standards they have to meet. It's not just willy-nilly. You take these 120 credit hours of classes that we tell you you need to take that have no bearing on the real world.
So this article looked at someone else who was not like one of the notable people in this thing. This is someone they found who was going to talk to them. Someone named Andrew. So he also attended the Kids on Fire. He has abandoned evangelicalism.
Nice word. Way to go, Andrew.
And was living, but it's not great. And was living with spiritual seekers in Mount Shasta, California. Well, this was also 2016. So he had made peace.
There, like they were just saying you're not hurting anyone. Then was my way to go in.
So for Andrew, his father coming out as homosexual.
Oh wow.
Motivated him in leaving the church.
Okay.
Andrew reports not fully seeing his time at Kids on Fire, stating that he had good intentions, but sick people trying to treat sick people, which I think is a good description
That is.
of what's happening.
Because you have people who, we talked about Ted Haggard and his kind of waffling back and forth, but you have people who are basically known sinners according to the Bible.
Well, I mean, they didn't know it then, but he's a pedophile.
Yeah, but I mean, you have these people who are going in these pulpits and preaching fire and brimstone against homosexuality or whatever it might be, but they're also doing the same thing, literally like...
It's very much like a Queen Macbeth situation, right? Where, like, my hands are red and I can't get it off.
How you damn spot.
Yeah. So when he said that the lady he said she's a terrible fucking person who is fueled by spiritual self-hate of other people.
And that's Becky Fisher was.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like that, but that's where she makes her money.
Well, yeah, because she's going to find parents who maybe believe their child is non-binary or someone who might be in the not straight part of the sexuality spectrum, and they just want their kids to be quote-unquote normal. Well, nobody's normal. There is no such thing as normal.
Normal is a sliding scale.
Yeah.
Like when people come to me and they're like, well, I want to be happy. I'm like, well, what does that mean? Like, happy is a sliding scale. So, I did a deep dive. And so Rachel and Tori, nothing about them online. They have, like, scoured themselves.
Yeah, they've just been like, nope, we're moving to wherever and we're not touching Facebook.
So this comes down to, my next part is, what does humanism say about choosing beliefs in past childhood?
Okay.
So when we look at human development, we are first influenced by our parents and immediate family. They model beliefs and behaviors, and we follow suit. We are then introduced to new beliefs and behaviors in school. These early experiences often shape our emotional responses through adolescence and into adulthood. As we become teenagers and young adults, our cognitive processing refines, which is what we call post-normal thinking, and we're able to start applying critical thinking skills to assess which core beliefs we wish to keep and which we start to adapt based on new information.
Yeah. And okay, I'm saying, yeah, not to be a dick, but like, so I do not have degrees or advanced degrees like Nicole has in psychology and social work. But, you know, seeing this as an outsider of that degree space.
Someone come from experience that like childhood and working into your teenage years.
And just like listening to you put the timeline together, I can visualize it in my mind's eye. I'm like, oh, okay, well that makes so much sense. Not only personally, but for people I know.
Because the human brain does not fully develop until we're 25. We're all basically like flailing around trying to figure it out.
I know. And I'm just like thinking of me as like a 23-year-old just saying like,
It's like you had all your shit together.
oh, totally.
You know, everything.
Like, you go and like, you look at old pictures or whatever, like, you look at history, you're like, oh, this 23-year-old had 3 children and they were the CEO of their insurance business and they were also like president of the school board. I'm like, well, how much time you're actually like vetting my doctor's appointments? Like, not really, but like, that's how we get